What's going on, guys? Today I'm getting back to work on the Axial SCX24 Suburban build I'm working on. You can see I got a little bit of primer on it now. I started doing some sanding last night and noticed that the primer didn't stick very well to the resin body for some reason. It stuck in some places, but in other places it was just starting to kind of flake off. I filled in a couple of low spots that I had, and it's ready for another coat of primer. Unfortunately, I'm out of primer, so I'm kind of stuck on that for now. I did also prime the interior pieces though, so I figured today would be a good day to go ahead and paint up the interior and try to finish it off. That way I'll just have the body itself left to do. I have two colors mixed up here. One is a grayish color to go with the fabric that I found to use on as the carpet. The other is the blue that I came up with to try to match the image that I'm basing this truck off of. I'm going to use these two colors and maybe a little bit of white for some accents in the interior. I'm going through and painting this with brushes today. It'll be easier than having to tape up everything to airbrush. And it's also some tiny stuff, so I don't think you'll see brush strokes inside this thing. I'm gonna start off putting a coat of the gray on everything. I am painting the floor, even though it'll be covered with the fabric. Based off of how it looks like the gray is covering, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna end up doing 2 or maybe 3 coats of this on everything. I'm leaving some sections in the center of the seats unpainted. I'm gonna come back with the blue here and it'll look like a colored insert into the seat. I didn't want just a plain gray seat. I thought that was kind of boring. I'm using this piece of cardboard with just some light tape on it to be able to stick the pieces down and hold them while the paint dries. Some pieces, like the back of the front seat, I won't be able to paint all at one time, so I'll have to paint one side, let the paint dry, and then come back and do the other side, but it's not too big of a deal. The last piece is the dash. This is going to be 2 separate colors as well. I'm going to do the top section in gray so it contrasts with the blue on the body. And the steering column and parts of the wheel will also be gray. But the bottom section and the wheel itself, the circular part of the wheel, will be blue to help tie into the body color. This will probably end up being the most intricate piece painting wise in the interior. Right now with the gray I can be kind of sloppy, but when I come to the blue I'll have to be very careful and way more accurate with my paint placement. So now that I got a coat on everything, I can let that dry. It should need about 30 minutes to an hour to dry, and then I can put a second coat on and we'll go from there. Alright, on to my second coat of gray, and then I think I'm going to start playing around with that fabric. You can see when the gray dries it's a little bit darker. The wet paint that I'm putting on is a little bit lighter than the paint that's already dried. I'm hoping that this will be the final coat, so I'm taking my time a little bit more to try to get some even strokes in. I apologize if the camera goes out of focus here. It's kind of hard to get good shots of these small pieces with my hands in the way while I'm painting. I've kind of thought about it as I was laying down that coat, and I'm gonna need to put a coat on the inside of the body as well. Mainly just the roof where the headliner would be. I'm not going through and sanding this or prepping it any special way. It won't really be seen. It's just so you have continuous color on the inside. Alright, here's the fabric I'll be using. The interior paint is almost dry, so it's a good time for me to start cutting this out into shape. I wanted to use something more along the lines of felt, but the only felt that I have is purple, and that doesn't match. I'm gonna start off cutting this out into a rectangle shape. So now with the basic shape cut out, I'll start going and fitting it into the floor where it should be. I cut it pretty long and a good bit wider than the floor itself. Since it's a little rough around the edges, I'm thinking what I'll be able to do is fold it over and put a couple of little tacks of super glue to hold it in. That way I'll have a nice edge on every side. I'm not sure why I thought the super glue was gonna actually work. It was just soaking into the fabric. It wasn't actually bonding the two pieces. I got the hot glue gun warmed up now, so I'm gonna put a little bead of hot glue to hold it instead. That works a whole lot better. So now I need to take my time and try to cut and fold this to fit inside, just inside of the bottom of the floor here. So now I got the front laid out pretty well. I'm gonna just work my way to the back, getting it all situated in place. Now that fits in pretty nicely. I'm gonna try to use the same rubber cement that I used to reinforce my drag car tires to secure this down to the floor. So to start this off, I'm gonna brush a layer of the rubber cement onto the back side or the underside of the fabric itself. I'll set that aside to dry for a second, and I'll put a coat on the bottom of the interior panel. I'm trying my best not to hit the sides at all. Alright, I'm gonna let that set for probably just 2 or 3 minutes to let it tack up a little bit, and then I'm gonna try my best to lay that in there. And there it is. There's a little gap all the way in the back. Once this is in the body, you'll never see that. The rest of the gray paint should be dry now as well, so I should be able to move on to the blue. So for the blue now, I'm using a really tiny paintbrush, and I'm just gonna take my time. I know it probably won't be perfect because I'm doing it by hand, but I'll try to get it as best as I can. As light as the blue is, I kind of figured it wouldn't cover well, which is exactly what it looks like. So this will take a couple coats as well. Now you ought to be able to see what I'm aiming for here, with the seats at least. Alright, that was probably just about as hard as I expected it to be. I have a little bit of blue left to do though. I want to do a little outline here as a trim panel in the blue all the way around. So let's see how tough this will be. So I'm finishing up the first coat here. Like I said, I'll probably have to do at least 2 coats. I'm thinking 3. I'm definitely not gonna make you sit here and watch me do this 2 or 3 more times. So we'll fast forward to when I have all the coats done and start putting this thing together. After 3 coats of blue, I used some silver to detail some of the small parts. This is where I'd love to have a resin 3D printer, as I could have printed out some door handles and window cranks to give it more depth. The silver helps to bring them out a little, so that'll have to do for now. The pieces can then be glued into the interior with super glue. I cut slots in the fabric so that the seats could glue to the plastic under the fabric. Now I've got an interior that I'm pretty happy with. It's my first complete interior, and at 1/24th scale, I'm satisfied with the amount of detail I was able to get in. Once I get some more primer, I'll be able to start finishing up the body. I'm really looking forward to finishing up this build. Let me know how you think I did on my first interior in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy these videos and want to see more. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.